Okay, so imagine this. You wake up, go about your day, but realizing a daily essential like deodorant is just banned.
Banned. Wow.
Yeah, no roll-ons, no sprays, no sticks, just, well, you. And get this, just this past week, I actually did it. I plunged into that exact reality.
You spent a week without deodorant.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Challenged myself to navigate a world where it's simply not used. And it's not just about, enduring sweaty armpits. It's really a deep dive
Deep dive into what exactly?
into these fascinating cultural norms, some unexpected health concerns, and honestly, the really ingenious ways people adapt when something common like deodorant is restricted or maybe even taboo.
Okay.
So our mission today is really to pull out the key insights from all sorts of sources, health reports, environmental studies, personal blogs, you name it.
And that personal challenge, that's actually a fascinating lens, isn't it? It forces us to ask, well, why would these bans even exist?
Right.
And how do people genuinely cope or even thrive? And maybe the biggest question, what does it tell us about our own habits, our own sort of ingrained ideas about what cleanliness actually means?
Exactly.
It sounds like we're going on a journey into some surprising facts, definitely different viewpoints on something most of us, well, we probably never give it a second thought.
Okay, let's unpack this. So from a Western view, the whole idea of a deodorant ban sounds, well, pretty bizarre, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
We're just so conditioned to think it's an absolute necessity. But when I was prepping for my own week without it, I started digging into why. Why would these bans happen?
You're right. It does seem really counterintuitive at first. But these bans, or even just strong restrictions, they seem to be rooted in about three main areas. First off, there are some pretty significant health concerns.
Okay, like what?
Well, many commercial antiperspirants, and they make up something like 80% of the market, they use aluminum compounds.
Right, to block sweat.
Exactly, to block the sweat glands. But these have been, well, controversially linked to health issues. Things like Alzheimer's disease, even hormonal disruptions.
Oh, wow. Seriously.
Now, it's important to say, studies like the ones from the Alzheimer's Association back in 2023, they remain inconclusive on a direct causal link.
Okay.
But they definitely raise questions, And this scientific caution, this is why regulatory bodies in places like the EU or South Korea have stricter rules. They apply what's called the precautionary principle.
Precautionary principle,
Meaning,
meaning...
if there's even a potential risk, they tend to err on the side of caution. So they limit aluminum in cosmetics to like a tiny 0.6%.
That low. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not just aluminum. Other ingredients like parabens, phthalates, they also raise concerns about endocrine disruption. So that leads to similar strict rules in more health-conscious regions around the world.
That really frames the stakes differently, doesn't it? It's not just personal preference. It's this whole scientific and societal debate shaping regulations. So what about the environmental side? You mentioned three areas.
Right, the environment. Think about the impact there. Deodorant aerosols, for instance, they contribute to air pollution. They release volatile organic compounds, VOCs, which can make urban smog worse.
Yeah.
And then there's the packaging, all that plastic.
Oh, yeah, the plastic containers.
Get this figure. A 2024 Greenpeace report estimated 15 billion deodorant containers are thrown away globally each year.
15
Billion.
billion. Yeah. Just clogging up landfills, taking centuries to break down. It's this huge waste problem that some countries are really starting to actively tackle.
15 billion. That number is just, wow. It really makes you rethink your daily routine, even for something small.
Doesn't it?
So, okay, we've got health concerns, environmental footprint, what was the third area? Cultural attitudes.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, because finally you have these profound cultural attitudes at play.
How so?
Well, in some societies, natural body scent isn't something to be ashamed of. It's actually embraced as like a sign of authenticity. Really? Like where?
Take parts of rural India, for example. There, body odor is often just seen as a normal byproduct of physical labor. There's very little social stigma attached.
Huh. That's so different.
Now, contrast that with, say, urban Japan. They definitely prioritize odor neutrality, but they tend to achieve it more through diet and just meticulous hygiene, rather than relying heavily on chemical antiperspirants.
So different paths to the same goal, kind of.
Sort of. These examples just really highlight how our definition of cleanliness is so deeply cultural. It totally influences whether deodorants are seen as essential or maybe completely expendable.
That's a great point. It makes you realize how much of our own perception is just what we're used to culturally. Let's dig into some specific examples. How does this actually play out in places like Japan?
Okay, yeah, Japan is fascinating. Personal cleanliness is like a cornerstone of daily life there. Deodorant use is common, but it's also heavily regulated.
Right, the regulations you mentioned.
Yeah. There's a lot of scrutiny around ingredients like aluminum chlorohydrate, for instance. And many Japanese brands, big ones like Shiseido, they offer a really wide range of aluminum-free options.
So the options are there, but maybe used differently.
Exactly. But the preference for odor control leans really heavily towards diet-based solutions.
Mhm.
A survey in 2024 by Japan's Ministry of Health found that 60% of urban residents prefer managing body odor by eating low-odor foods.
Like what kind of foods?
Things like rice, fish, green tea, stuff that naturally reduces sulfur compounds in your sweat.
Interesting.
Combine that with, the widespread practice of public bathhouses on sunsen and just frequent showering, and you see much less reliance on traditional deodorants. I mean, I can tell you personally, traveling through Tokyo, you notice it. People in the subway just have this subtle freshness. It really speaks to these practices working.
Wow, diet playing such a central role. When I was prepping for my challenge, that approach felt so alien initially. Okay, so Japan has this meticulous hygiene and diet focus. What about India? You mentioned it earlier. Seems like a different picture there.
Oh, completely different. India shows this really fascinating variation based on region and even social class.
Okay.
So in big urban centers like Mumbai, yeah, you'll see marketing for global brands like Nivea, pretty much like here.
Standard stuff.
Right. But then you venture into rural communities. Say in Rajasthan, there was a study mentioning villagers near Jodhpur, and you find this strong preference for traditional hygiene,
Traditional light.
like using natural remedies, things like neem oil, sandalwood paste, maybe turmeric. They apply these after bathing, often twice a day, and it aligns with Ayurvedic principles.
Ah, Ayurveda, that ancient Indian health system.
Exactly. Emphasizes natural, holistic well-being, and you see it in the numbers, too. In a state like Kerala, deodorant sales saw only about 5% growth between 2020 and 2024. It's pretty slow.
Very slow, yeah.
And many residents there rely on things like coconut oil or vetiver, root for fragrance instead. These practices just show how local solutions can really thrive when deodorants aren't the default, blending tradition and practicality.
So it's not just about what's banned, like we started with, but also about what alternatives naturally take root when these products aren't pushed so heavily.
Precisely. It's about what thrives organically.
It's kind of inspiring seeing that ingenuity. It also makes me circle back to the environmental concerns. If places are worried about VOCs and plastic, are governments actually doing anything concrete about it?
That's a really crucial question. And yes, some are. Take Singapore, for example.
Okay.
Their deodorant imports actually dropped by 10% between 2021 and 2024. And that was partly due to new eco-regulations that actively encourage biodegradable alternatives, things like crystal deodorants.
Ah, those mineral salt ones.
Exactly. And then you have Bhutan, which is really unique. They prioritize gross national happiness over GDP, right?
Right, heard about that.
Well, a 2024 Ministry of Health directive there actually bans deodorants with synthetic chemicals outright.
An outright ban. Wow.
Yeah, it reflects their really deep commitment to natural living, chemical-free well-being. So these bans are often direct responses to both the health and environmental concerns we talked about.
That makes total sense. If there's a potential risk, why not be cautious, especially if your culture supports it? So, what does this mean for the people actually living there, who maybe grew up using deodorant and now can't or choose not to? How did they cope day to day?
The ways people adapt are honestly so creative. In Bhutan, for instance, I learned this from a market vendor in Thimphu. Locals often use a paste.
The paste.
Yeah, made of crushed lemongrass and ginger. They applied after bathing. Apparently gives this surprisingly zesty, fresh scent.
Lemongrass and ginger. Huh. Never would have thought of that.
Right. And in India, homemade deodorants are huge.
Yeah.
People use baking soda, coconut oil, maybe lavender essential oil. These DIY recipes are shared all over social media. We're talking like 2 million posts under the hashtag natural deodorant on Instagram in 2025 alone.
2 million. Okay, that's not niche anymore.
Not at all. And back in Japan, to handle the humidity in summer, things like portable bidets and just changing clothes more frequently are common ways to maintain freshness. Practices I actually adopted pretty quickly during my own challenge week.
That's fascinating. And it connects to the story I read about Priya Sharma, a 32-year-old expat in Bhutan, where deodorants were banned back in 2020.
Oh, yeah, know her story. Very influential.
She talked about really struggling initially, especially during the humid monsoon season, but she adapted. started using a sandalwood and aloe vera paste, bathing twice daily, wearing breathable cotton.
Makes sense.
And in a blog post from 2024, she actually said, and I quote, "It was tough at first, especially in crowded markets, but now I feel liberated, relying on my body's natural balance."
Liberated. That's powerful.
Yeah. And apparently her journey really resonated. Her YouTube videos got over 50,000 views. People like you were inspired by her.
Oh, absolutely. Her story was a huge inspiration for me deciding to try the challenge. During my week in Bhutan, I really did follow her lead. I went with the lemongrass ginger paste and, yes, lots of bathing.
How did that actually feel the first few days?
Honestly, nerve-wracking, definitely. Every bead of sweat felt like a spotlight was on me. I kept, instinctively reaching for a deodorant stick that wasn't there in the morning. It was weird.
I can imagine.
But then, by day 3, something interesting happened, I noticed. Significantly less odor than I expected.
Really? Why do you think that was?
I think partly because I was consciously eating a low-odor diet, mostly rice and vegetables, trying to minimize things. And by day 7, I felt this unexpected sense of empowerment.
Empowerment. How so?
Just embracing my natural scent in a culture that genuinely didn't seem to judge it. It was this profound realization that, for me at least, deodorant had become as much a psychological crutch as a physical necessity.
Wow, a psychological crutch. That's a really interesting way to put it. It's one thing to hear about it, but actually living it. I mean, just thinking about a week without deodorant makes me feel a bit self-conscious, picturing awkward moments.
Oh, totally.
What were the biggest challenges for you during the experiment, physically or socially?
Physically, okay, Bhutan's summer hit 30 degrees Celsius sometimes. So the frequent bathing, it did lead to some minor skin irritation. And prepping those natural pastes, definitely more time-consuming than a quick swipe of stick deodorant.
Yeah, it adds to the routine.
Socially, though, the biggest hurdle was just my own self-consciousness. Being in crowded places like festivals, especially when my Western upbringing, really clashed with the local indifference to mild body odor. That was a mental game.
You felt like you stood out.
I worried I did. I was constantly thinking, am I offending someone? Even though the locals seemed genuinely unfazed, it just highlighted this massive cultural gap in how we perceive odor.
That cultural clash sounds intense. It really underlines how deeply deodorant is tied into Western ideas of professionalism, maybe even politeness.
Absolutely.
I mean, in the US, deodorant sales hit, what, $5 billion in 2024? Skipping it can feel like a real social faux pas here.
It absolutely can. And in stark contrast, you have Bhutan's ban, which reflects this holistic view of health, prioritizing being chemical-free over cosmetic norms.
Right.
And then India's approach, sort of this hybrid of natural remedies in rural areas and commercial products in cities, that beautifully shows how globalization kind of blends with tradition. These differences just powerfully underscore that body odor isn't inherently bad. It's fundamentally a cultural construct.
Okay, so if we connect this to the bigger picture then, what does all this tell us about our everyday lives, our consumption habits?
Well, what's truly fascinating is how these movements, challenging something as basic as deodorant, they kind of push us to question so many other everyday products and their wider impact, on our bodies, on the planet.
Yeah, that ripple effect.
Exactly. In countries like Bhutan, these bans fit perfectly with their eco-spiritual values. In Japan, it reflects meticulous health oversight. And for individuals, adapting fosters incredible innovation, DIY stuff, diet changes, embracing natural options. Honestly, my week without deodorant was truly humbling. It revealed just how much we rely on products we barely ever question.
It's a really powerful reminder. And while globalization might be spreading Western hygiene norms everywhere,
Which it is, yeah.
these examples are such crucial reminders to respect and try to understand diverse cultural practices. And it seems like consumers might be shifting too, right? There was that 2025 UN report.
Oh, yeah. The one saying 70% of global consumers want more sustainable personal care products.
That's the one. It suggests a pretty significant shift towards natural alternatives might already be happening.
It definitely feels like it. So whether it's driven by government policy or just personal choice, rethinking something like deodorant could genuinely reshape how we collectively define cleanliness.
So summing up this deep dive into these scent-free societies, our journey through Japan's diet focus, India's traditional oils, Bhutan's herbal pastes, it really shows how health concerns and different cultural views are driving these shifts, right? And challenging a lot of Western norms.
Absolutely. It's a complex mix of health, environment, and deep-seated culture.
And for me personally, surviving that week without deodorant in that kind of context, it was definitely sweaty, but also really enlightening. Tough at first, sure,
Yeah.
but ultimately it felt quite liberating. It kind of redefined my own idea of cleanliness, less about masking something, maybe more about understanding it as, well, a cultural artifact.
That's a great takeaway.
It really makes you think, though, what everyday products do you listening use without really questioning them, and what impact do they truly have on your body or the planet? Or even just how might your own definition of cleanliness be shaped by your specific culture?
That raises a really important question for everyone listening. Have you ever had to adapt to a product ban? Or maybe you've even tried going deodorant-free yourself. What were your experiences like?
Yeah, we would love to hear your stories or just your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know, do you agree or disagree with our summary of this whole fascinating topic?
Definitely share your thoughts.
And remember, for more great information like this, more deep dives into intriguing topics, be sure to visit Mind Expansion Daily.
Lots of good stuff there.
Absolutely. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily right here so you can keep expanding your knowledge with us on future deep dives. Thanks so much for joining us today.